More recently, news came about a large construction project in China. They started drilling a very deep well there, which can accommodate Everest, the highest mountain on Earth. This well is located in the Taklamakan Desert in a special place surrounded by mountains. It was named Shandy Tai 1, and it is planned that it will be deeper than 11,100 meters. This is the first scientific well in China, which should be deeper than 10,000 meters. If all goes well, it will become the second deepest well in the world and the deepest in Asia. To understand how deep this is, imagine the Eiffel Tower. It is so high that 37 Eiffel Towers standing on top of each other will fit into this well. Also, this well will be deeper than the Mariana Trench, the deepest place in the ocean. Scientists want to get to the Cretaceous era, when dinosaurs lived on Earth. At that time, there was no ice at the poles, but instead, forests grew. This time is very important for science, and the information that scientists will find can be very valuable. Drilling began on May 30th, 2023. In less than a year, the well has passed through 13 layers of earth. More than 1,000 pipes and 20 special drilling tools were used. These tools wear out quickly because they collide with solid ground. To drill that deep, you need to move about 2,000 tons of equipment. They installed a huge steel pylon and then they started drilling. But it's not that simple. As you drill, you need to constantly change equipment because conditions change with each layer of earth. This is not the first deep drilling in history. The record belongs to the Kola Ultra Deep Well in Russia, which reached a depth of 12,262 meters in 20 years of operation. Another record belongs to the BD-04 oil well in Qatar. It is very long, 12,290 meters, but it's just the length, not the depth. Now, Sakhalin Z44 is considered to be the longest well in the world, which reaches 15 kilometers. But again, this is length, not depth. Now let's return to the Kola Ultra Deep Well. If we compare it with a new project in China, then it is best to do it with her. Chinese engineers are going to drill very quickly. Look, the Kola well began drilling on May 24th, 1970 and reached a depth of 9,580 meters on June 6th, 1979. And China wants to finish its drilling in 457 days. But we must remember that many years have passed since then, and technology has become better. When drilling the Kola well, scientists made interesting discoveries. For example, they found water and hydrogen at a depth where they were not expected. They also found small plankton fossils at a depth of almost 6,000 meters. As many as 14 species of fossilized microorganisms have been found there, and they also found gold, copper, and nickel. China is drilling fast right now, but the easy part of the job is over. Now they have a real difficult job ahead of them. When they reach a depth of 10,000 meters, big problems will begin. The temperature there will be above 200 degrees and the pressure will be more than 130 megapascals. It's going to get harder with each new meter. A scientist from the Chinese Academy of Engineering compared the difficulties to how a large truck rides on two thin steel cables. It is possible, but it is very difficult to do it. It is necessary to choose the right equipment that can withstand such high temperatures and pressures. But it's not just about what's underground. The conditions there are very difficult. Deep below the surface, where China's hottest and driest desert is located, the job becomes even more difficult. I will tell you about the place where they will drill a little later. First, let's talk about what's in the depths. When drilling to a depth of 10,000 meters, the real difficulty begins. Almost no one has ever tried to drill this deep, so there are no standards or rules. There is no information to learn from, only your mistakes. Because of this, the deeper the drill goes, the slower the work goes, and the more tools need to be changed. For example, it took only 4 days to drill 1,000 meters, but it took 70 days from 9,000 to 10,000 meters. The average drilling speed was only 14.29 meters per day, and before each new meter, you need to analyze the rocks below to understand whether you need to change the equipment. The deeper they drill, the more difficult it is to analyze rocks, and it takes more time. There is no hurry, otherwise the equipment may break down, and then drilling will stop. I wonder why there are almost no ultra-deep wells. Let's look at the example of the Kola well. Although it reached great depth, drilling encountered unexpectedly high temperatures and dense rocks. This led to the project being stopped in 1992, and the well was mothballed in 2005. We planned to reach 15,000 meters, but it turned out to be too difficult. Now I have a question. Is it possible to drill even deeper? Or is the record of the Kola well impossible to beat? If you look at the history of drilling in the world, you can see that people have moved to the center of the Earth by only a small percentage in 300 years. It doesn't exactly look like a success, but it is important to understand what you have to work with. On the very surface of the Earth, where we stand, there is a layer called the continental crust. It is very thin, only about 40 kilometers. Beneath it is the mantle, which is already thicker, almost 2,896 kilometers. Then there is the outer core of the Earth, which stretches for 2,250 kilometers, and in the very center is the inner core. It is a hot and dense ball of iron with a radius of about 12-20 kilometers. When people tried to drill the Kola ultra-deep well, they were able to pass only a third of this thin layer of crust. It would seem that it is possible to drill further, but 50 years ago, scientists realized that getting to the center of the Earth is much more difficult than they thought. At depth, everything is completely different. When the temperature reaches 180 degrees, the rocks begin to behave strangely. For example, if the rock is porous, it becomes plastic and cannot hold its shape, which makes drilling almost impossible. This is one of the difficulties encountered in the Kola well. In addition, the equipment used for drilling cannot withstand such high temperatures. Even cooling is a big problem. The length of the well is more than 10 kilometers, and it is necessary to deliver cold water over a very long distance. Even more sophisticated equipment is needed to drill to such a depth. When drilling the Kola well, the drill bit served only 4 hours. That is, every 4 hours I had to pull out the drill and change the chisel. And all this happened at a depth of more than 10 kilometers. You need to change the chisel because it wears out quickly. The temperature and composition of the rock change, and the hotter it gets, the more liquid the environment around the drill becomes. It's like trying to hold a hole in a pot of hot soup. As long as you move the spoon, the hole holds. But if you remove the spoon, the hole disappears. Despite all attempts to drill the Earth even deeper into the mantle, no country has succeeded. In the spring of 1961, a group of American geologists began drilling a deep hole in the sea off California. They did not know that soon everyone would forget about their work, because the race for the moon began in May. Everyone was interested in what was happening in space and not inside the Earth. Therefore, geologists who dreamed of seeing what was happening underground were left with almost nothing. They only got a little money. Some attempts to reach the Earth's mantle failed due to technical problems, while others failed because they chose bad drilling sites. In addition, the technologies that were needed for successful drilling had to be invented from scratch, and it cost a lot. The American project spent, by modern standards, about $40 million on each small part of the drilling, and there were problems with the heat. No one expected it to be so hot. The Americans even said that the place where they drilled turned out to be hotter than that of the Soviet geologists. But it wasn't just about difficulties and accidents. I just lost interest in the project. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, funding also stopped, without which it became impossible to continue working. One can only guess how deep the Kola well would have gone if the money had continued to flow. To be honest, it's a little sad that no one wants to spend millions of dollars just for the sake of science. There are always some additional reasons to fund research. China has such reasons. Firstly, these are scientific reasons. Scientists want to learn more about how the Earth was formed. The Earth's crust is like the rings of a tree and helps to understand what happened to it. But here, everything is much more complicated and time covers a greater number of years. Scientists are already calling the Chinese project a telescope to the depths of the Earth, because evidence can be found there almost at the level of the stars. The samples collected from the depths of the Earth with the help of a Chinese well look incomprehensible, but very interesting. And an even better understanding of what is inside our planet will help predict earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. This is important information. There are also economic reasons for drilling. For example, you can find potentially profitable energy reserves that are located deep underground. Therefore, this region was chosen to create an ultra-deep mine. There is a place in China where many minerals are mined. Engineers hope to find gas reserves there. 2 big oil companies are drilling a well to find out if there is still oil and gas underground. China needs energy, and recently their leaders said that they need to become independent in this. In order for everything to be good, the country needs new sources of energy. Although it is difficult to drill in this place, it is there that they can find what they need. But there is another interesting project. An international group of scientists wants to drill the Earth down to the mantle. This is the part under the crust that is very important. They use a Japanese ship for this. If they manage to get to the mantle, they will be able to learn a lot about how the Earth was formed and how its plates move. Scientists are optimistic, although they did not always succeed before. Drilling technologies have improved over the past 50 years, and now they have new tools that can withstand high temperatures and pressures. But this project needs a lot of money, $1 billion. The plan is to find a thin place in the ocean crust so that drilling is easier and deeper. It might work. Recently, scientists were able to drill a well under the Atlantic Ocean and obtained a long piece of rock. This will help to better understand what is happening deep in the Earth and how life appeared. The well was drilled in a volcanic area at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. If getting to the mantle is so difficult, why did someone do it? It's all about the place. There, the mantle is closer to the surface due to a fault in the Earth, so scientists just carefully scraped it off. In 2009, in Iceland, in a volcano, scientists began drilling a deep hole in the ground, but suddenly the drill got stuck. It happens. When they took it out, they found solidified magma, a hot stone mass. After that, the work stopped for several years, but then they started drilling again, and now they want to use this hole to get energy from hot water, which is located deep underground. How does it work? Geothermal energy is when hot water is taken from the depths. The hotter the water, the more energy you can get. Scientists thought about what would happen if a person was thrown there, but only if the hole was wide enough. It will be very dangerous. First, it's very hot there. Secondly, the pressure underground is enormous. And you can also hit the walls of the well hard, because a person will fall quickly due to the rotation of the Earth. So it's better not to fall into deep holes. Speaking of deep wells, it is worth mentioning that they are made not only in the ground, but also in ice. Scientists have recently learned what ice sounds like if you throw it into a deep ice pit. It sounds like little stormtroopers from Star Wars are sitting inside the pit and shooting in all directions. So be careful and don't throw anything into deep holes.